Ruchim Haboim B'Shem Irgin Shiritar. I'd like to welcome everyone to today's shir from Rabbi Yakov Zev Smith Shlita on washing, benching, and Zeeman for children. I'd like to give a big yeshikach and responsive to today's shir, Rabbi Yankel and Rabbi Yosel Jankel to the Nishmas Avihim, Fall Zev and Mnasan as Yertzai is Terech Av Cheshvat. Also like to give yeshikach and responsive to today's shir, Zev Bol, the Nishmas Oviv, and Pshol Ben Tzvir of Hasholem, Tenish Mesem, Tzuris B'Tzor HaChaim. Arav Smith.
There's an old child of chinuch is a mitzvah on the child, on the father. I don't know. When I was learning the sugya of chinuch, I came to a new understanding that whatever the mitzvah is on, but when a person, an adult, learns the halachas of chinuch, he learns halachas for himself. It's really a mitzvah on the adult, because you'll see how many Yisaidis, how many chedushim we learn when we learn for the chinuch of a child, but memela we see halachas for ourselves, for the gedolim. Therefore, even though it's really based on chinuch for children, today's sugya, but it's really yediyas for all of us, even if it's no longer together this mitzvah of chinuch. But today we're going to learn the halachas of Netilas Yadayim and Ma'amar Chaynim, Zeeman and Bentching, and as we'll see, it really touches upon the yisaidis of those mitzvahs negayah for all of us. And we'll start with a very common question. It comes in different forms. When is the chiyuv of Netilas Yadayim? I guess it starts with the shayla of a child wants to take just a bite of bread. Does he have to wash? But the emphasis is negayah for adults also. You know, today we no longer eat bread. Today we're not longer, like Rashi says in Paras Vayera, Pita Sada de Liba. People eat a little bit bread. They wash. They have a little bit bread, then they have the main Suda. How much of bread do we have to eat in Mechayev to make it Netilas Yadayim with a bracha? I just saw a beautiful shayla last night. Someone goes to a tish, a rebbe, after he benched, and the Shirayim challah. Can he eat a little bit of challah, a drop, without washing? It's very hard to wash in the parenches and the bleaches. How are you going to wash? Are you allowed to eat a drop of bread without washing? So the emphasis is, I think we have to reduce this question even simply. What is the chiyuv of Netilas Yadayim? Is it like bracha rishayna? You can't eat without a bracha, even a kosher. Maybe Netilas Yadayim also. You're not allowed to eat any bread without Netilas Yadayim. Or maybe we'll say the chiyuv of Netilas Yadayim for bread is on a kazayas. That's an achila. That's chayav benching midrabanan. So it's not enough a kosher. You have to have a kazayas. Or maybe Netilas Yadayim is different. Since Netilas Yadayim is because of Tumah, we all know that Tumas Oichlin is not on less than a kabeya. So maybe to wash Netilas Yadayim with a bracha, you have to have a kabeya. And as we'll see, there are many nafkaminas. So listen please to the lashon of the Rekeach Siman Shin Chavches, one of the Gdolei Rishonim. Oichel pachas mi kabeya. A person ate less than a kabeya. Yital misafik v'lo yivarech. He has to wash, but you do not make a bracha on less than a kabeya. Now that's mamish our shayla. You're eating less than a kabeya, you have to wash, but no bracha. What's his safik? He doesn't say what the safik is. So you look in the Beis Yosef in Siman Kuf Nun Ches, Zok the Beis Yosef, the Rekeach considers that maybe since the chiyuv Netilas Yadayim is al tumah, it's only b'kabeya. Less than a kabeya, there's no tumah, there's no Netilas Yadayim. But, says the Beis Yosef, maybe it's loy plug. Whenever you have a ma'isa achila, you have to have a Netilas Yadayim, even a kazayis. So here we see two important halachas. If someone has a kazayis of pas, or bread, or matzah, he has to wash, but no bracha. I want to just make something very clear. The kazayis kibeya is not confusing. It's not something that you have to be a yodin to know. Basically, picture a center slice of rye bread, typical rye bread. A half a slice of bread is already a kibeya, and a quarter of a slice of rye bread is a kazayis. So it's not so hard to figure out. So what the Rekeach is saying, if someone has a quarter of a slice of bread or a small piece of challah, he has to wash without a bracha. L'chayra, it's mashma. If you eat a kosher, let's just a bite, you want to taste the bread to see if it's worth washing. You bite a kosher, maybe there's no chiyuv netilah. because he's talking about it from a kazayas to a kabeya. But listen please to a second rekeach. Actually, it's early in the Sefer, Siman Reish Pei Gimel. And the rekeach is talking about the Leil Seder. And this rekeach is Maval Arayin. We know before we start the Shulchan Aruch, before we start the Suda, we wash our hands. Clears the rekeach, why are we washing at that point of the Seder? Zokti rekeach, you wash your hands, you make it till Yadayim, because we know we dip the mara into charaisis, and davish tibuli b'mashka you have to wash. So the rekeach is teaching us something that we never know. We wash before the Shulchan Aruch, not for the matzah. We wash for the mara that's dipped into charaisis. Frag the rekeach, why aren't we washing out the matzah? It's a mitzvah deraisa. Aval achilas matzah shu yaitze b'kizayis. Ein tzarech netila, dal pachas mikazayis, ein tzarech netila, and he brings the Gemara in Sukkah and Brachas. Now there's a big kasha on this, because matzah is a kazayis, and he said pachas mikazayis. Okay, we'll get back to that. But the rekeach l'chayra is saying, on less than a kazayis, there's no chiyad netila at all. You could take a bite of challah and eat it without an netilas yadayim at all. You have to make of course, a bracha of hamoitzi lechem in haaretz, and you don't bench. But he's saying on the tilas yadayim is on a kazayis or more. And these two psakim of the rekeach are in Shulchan Aruch. Listen, Kuf Nun Ches Beis, Mechaber says, Yeshmi Shoima, Im Einei Eichel Elapachas Mikabeya, Yitel Yada V'lo Yivarech. Which means, if someone has an intolerance to wheat, and he can't eat challah kamat, but he can eat just the bare minimum. So if he can eat a kazayis on Shabbos, he will wash, he will bench, but he will not make a bracha al netilas yadayim. Okay, we'll soon see. It's supposed to have a little more than a kebeya for the Shabbos Suda. But if someone can only eat a kazayis, he washes, no bracha, you make a hamoitzi lechem in haaretz, and he benches. The next Sif Gimel Kuf Nun Ches, Mechaber says, Eichel Pachas Mikazayis, Yesh Mi Shoim Shein Tzarech Netila. So the Mechaber is quoting like both rekeachs. Number one, more than a kazayis, less than a kebeya, you wash without a bracha, and less than a kazayis, there's no netilas yadayim at all. And the Taz explains the suffix, like we said, either Tumi you need a kebeya. But this is also the sheet of the Gra, the Bach, and the Birkei Yosef. On a bite of bread, you don't have to wash even lechatchila. The problem with all this is that the Shulchan Aruch is based on the rekeach, and as the Lechem Chamudais, Divrei Chamudais in Chul and Ches Ayin Beis, and the Magen Avraham Sifkat and Dalad Bayas point out, this rekeach has to be a mistake, because the rekeach says, on the Seder night that you're eating kazayis, you don't have to wash, because pachas mikazayis, you don't have to wash. Pachas mikazayis, you have to have a kazayis. And therefore, says the Magen Avraham and the Divrei Chamudais, there's a mistake. Beis Yosef had a wrong version of the rekeach. And if you look in the rekeach, the ones that we have, it says pachas mikabeya ein tzarech netilas yadayim. So in other words, both rekeachs are the same yisoid. On less than a kebeya, you have to wash, but no bracha. And therefore, we have the following yisoid. A person that eats bread, even a kolshu, has to wash. If he has a kebeya, you make a bracha also. But like this Magen Avraham, there's no difference, a little bit, or a kazayis, from a bite to a kebeya, you have to wash without a bracha. Now, of course, it's hard to believe that the Beis Yosef made a mistake. The Mordechai, the Maimon Mordechai, the Bir Agra, all in Kuf Nun Ches explain the Beis Yosef, and I would imagine that's why the Mishnah Berurah paskins lamaisa the following: when someone eats bread, if he has more than a kebeya, of course you make a bracha. Between a kazayis and a kebeya is a suffix, but even on a kolshu, you also have to wash misafik. So from a kolshu till a kebeya, you wash without a bracha. A kebeya onward, you make a bracha. But we do see, let's not forget, the Machabashita, the Gra, Birkei Yosef, that on less than a kazayis, on a bite, you don't have to wash. And the Mishnah Berurah did not reject that. He says you should be machmir like the other shitas. So we could say when a child is in a big rush and he wants to take a bite of bread and he doesn't wash, you don't have to tell him anything. Because up to a kazayis, there are shitas, there's no chiyuv netila. What is extremely negeya, and especially today, many people have a sort of an allergy to any wheat products, and they eat just the minimum amount of challah on Shabbos or matzah on Pesach. So this is important to mention. On a kazayis of bread, the minig is, of course, we wash, and we don't make a netilas yadayim. You make a moitzi, and you could bench, because that's the Gemara in Brachas. On a kazayis, you're allowed to bench. I should mention the Bir Hagra, Bayos, says that on a kazayis, not only you mechuyev to wash, the safek would you have to make a bracha. The Orchos Rabbeinu in Aleph Ayin Zayin quotes the Chazon Ish, and the Ashrei Ish Lamed Aleph Tezayin quotes Abba Yashiv, and Ramoshe in Dalet Mem Aleph, all paskin like this Gra. So if someone has to just eat a kazayis, not more, according to the Gra and other shitas, you're allowed to make a bracha. Like the Shulchan Aruch Pashtus, you should wash without a bracha. But as we said earlier, the Mishnah Berurah in Reish Tzadik Aleph Sif Katan Beis says, for Suda Shabbos, ideally one should have a little more than a kebeya, because a kebeya is like an achilas haroy. You have to have a Suda, so it's ideal to have more than a kebeya. But again, if someone can't, a kazayis, you wash and you bench, and hopefully you eat to the Suda Shabbos as well. The next question, which is extremely negeya, you watched your child, he washed, he made a moitzi, did not eat a kazayis of bread. Do you have to force him now to finish the kazayis? So obviously, if you want him to bench, you'll have to have a kazayis. But also, if he doesn't have a kazayis at least, then maybe netilas yadayim was a bracha levatala. So there's a ritva that says when someone washed with the intention to eat bread and changed his mind, it's not a bracha levatala retroactively. So we could say that the best thing would be for children and adults to follow the Mishnah Berurah's wise advice in Kuf Samach Zayin Lamed Hey, when you wash and you make a moitzi, kedai to eat a kazayis right away. This way the brach is chal and everything is chal, and you could bench and you know you had a kazayis. Next question is, what is the age of chinuch for a child regarding netilas yadayim and bechlal mitzvahs? So this is interesting. The Mishnah Berurah in three places, Siman Ayin, Sif Katan Vav, Reish Samachtes Aleph, and the Sharatzi and Tavkuf Nun Aleph Tzadik Aleph, in three different scenarios, says the share of chinuch is 6 or 7 years old. He says it regarding Krishma, regarding Kiddush Friday night, and regarding Avelis during the 3 weeks. The share of chinuch is 6 or 7 years old. But when you look in Hilchas Sukkah, Taf Reish Mem, Sif Katan Dalid, it's regarding the chi of chinuch of a sukkah, the mitzvah sukkah. He says a 5 or 6 year old is already chayiv in chinuch. Now, the truth is, it's already a little challenging, 6 or 7. Make up your mind, 6 or 7. But now we have 5 or 6, or 6 or 7. That's pretty, a pretty big range. But the answer, I think, is pashit. When you're talking about chinuch, there are 2 variables that you have to consider. Number 1, the maturity of the child. Some children are more developed, some are less developed. Some are more mature, some are less ready. But it's also, you have to take into account which mitzvah do you want to be mechanech the child. You look at the Gemara in Sukkah Membeis, which is really the side of the chi of chinuch. Zok the Gemara, Katna Yedei L'Naneya, he knows how to make nanum, is chayiv in lulav. He knows how to put on tzitzis, is chayiv in tzitzis. Hayadeya Lishmar Es Yadav, he knows how to keep his hands clean, not to get them tamei. So he has the halachas of taharis. The Gemara clearly gives a number of other examples that chinuch depends on each mitzvah. Hayadeya L'Nanei is chayiv in lulav. Now, the truth is, we all know that the mitzvah, the raisa of lulav, the Gemara says in Sukkah, once you pick it up, you yaitza. Nanuim are wonderful and heilig, but it's not ma'akiv. Freg the briskirav, why is the share of chinuch Hayadeya L'Nanei? It's not even ma'akiv. So the Teresi says is yisoid in chinuch. Chinuch is a child has to be able to do the mitzvahs properly. Not just minimally, not just to be yoitza. If he can't do the mitzvah entirely, he is not yet ready for the mitzvah. So even though nanuim are not ma'akiv, but if he's not ready for the nanuim, he's not ready for the mitzvah. Because the mitzvah has to be done lechatchila. So we see that the stress is to do the mitzvah properly. So I would imagine that's why we do find different shiurim of chinuch. It depends on the mitzvah, it depends on the child. But I think the minig ha'olam is between 5 and 6. We like to assume the child is ready to gil chinuch. If your particular child or grandchild is somewhat immature, he's not yet ready. No, he's not yet ready. He's a late bloomer. Let him wait till 6 and 7. But what's one thing that I learned, one of the many things I learned this week's sugya, regarding the tilas yadayim, there might be a factor that makes the share even later. Because we mentioned the Gemara in Sukkah, Hayadeya lishmor es yodav. Washing your hands is not just a mitzvah. A person that washes his hands for the tilas yadayim makes a mitzi, and during the Suda scratches himself, or touches a makkah mechusah, has to wash over. A person goes to the bathroom, and he comes back, he has to wash his hands with a keli, even though usually he doesn't wash with a keli after the bathroom, but once he touched the makkah mechusah, he has to wash his hands. So I saw in one of the Heintikis from the Nachlas Tzvit on Hilchas Atilas Yadayim, it's Amud Lamed Daled, he says this point, and he argues it very strongly. The Tilas Yadayim is not just the action of washing, it's washing your hands and keeping them clean for the entire Suda. So even if the child knows how to wash, it's not such a big chachma to wash your hands, but if he's not mature enough to keep his hands clean, maybe he's not Higil L'Chinuch. In other words, the Tilas Yadayim is not a Ma'isa Kaif Ba'alma. It has to be washing and a cognizance of keeping it clean. I should mention, adults also have to know that. You have to keep your hands clean during the Suda. The Mishnah in Kuf Samach Dalet Sif Kot Yud Gimel says, if you go to the bathroom, I should mention, if you diaper a child during the Suda, you have to wash your hands again with a keli, because now your hands are unclean. So getting back to a cotton, maybe we could say that 5 or 6, or maybe even 6 or 7, if he's not Yodea Lishma Yadav, is still young. So I want to just make a point. We try to train our children even before 5 or 6 to wash, and it's a good idea, chinuch, it's never too early. But if a child refuses or resists, he doesn't want to wash, it's not kedai to make a fuss, because could be he's lo yagil l'chinuch. The fact that he's resisting might be indicative that he's not yet ready. And besides that, if he's not yet ready, he's no chiyav chinuch. Especially if he only eats a small amount, maybe not even a kazayas. He has to have a geshmak in mitzvahs. If it becomes a battle whenever he eats, he's battling with the parent, then probably he's not yet ready. That would also explain a child that wants bread and he's not going to wash. Are you allowed to give a child bread if he won't wash? So we should know the Ramah, the end of Kuf Samach Gimel. It's also to give a adult bread if he won't wash. That's the Issa of Lefnei Iva. You have this question when you give food to a non-religious person who won't wash. So that's Lefnei Iva. You're giving him to do an Issa D'Rabbanan of eating without Netilas Yadayim. But if it's a child and he's not certainly Higil L'Chinuch, you have what to be Saimach on. He's young, he's not yet developed, he's not mature. So with an adult you have a bigger problem. With a child you could assume he might not be Higil L'Chinuch. But the point is we have to realize that Tilas Yadayim is a big sugya. I hope to get back to it at a different time, but it's interesting that a child that's traveling, let's say in a long distance, and the child's hungry, there's no water to wash, it wouldn't be a terrible thing to give the child bread without washing. If he eats less than a kazaya, certainly. And even if maybe he needs more than that, if he's not yet a full higiyah l'chinuch, maybe there's what to be saimach on. To someone to eat a little bread, let's say we mentioned the shayla by the tish, just to eat a little challah without washing, it's not pashut. It's a machlokes, poiskim if he's chayiv and Netilas Yadayim. I saw a beautiful shayla, someone made hamoitzi, and then what am I doing? I didn't yet wash. So he made a moitz without washing. So it's not such a bad idea to take a drop, a bite, let the bracha be chal, and then wash. The truth is you could go wash and then make a moitz, it wouldn't be a hefsik. But the point is, on a drop of bread, there are enough shittas that b'shas tadchak, you might be able to be saimach, you could eat it without washing. Are there any difference, boys or girls, regarding chinuch and Netilas Yadayim? So pashit, any mitzvah that women are chayiv, in other words, if it's not a mitzvah she's grama, there should be no difference, boys or girls. If there's a chinuch for boys, there's a chinuch for girls. Unless, of course, mitzvah, nashim are pata, so girls are pata. The Aruch HaShulchan in Kuf Pei Vav, the end, and in Taf Ayin Bey, Sif Tes Vav, says, somewhat cryptic message, there's no chinuch for girls. And of course the Paiskim afterwards wonder, what does that mean? And the Aruch HaShulchan himself in the beginning of Shin Mem Gimel says, for Davar Pasha there's chiyav chinuch for banos. So we could say the Aruch HaShulchan Shita is surprising, but the Paiskim definitely assume chinuch applies to girls and boys no different. The next group of questions is the Shaila of Ma'amer Chaynim. So Ma'amer Chaynim is interesting. There's no doubt about it. Midina Gemara, it's a very big chiyuv. The Gemara says it emphatically, Ma'amer Chaynim chayva. The Gemara learns in Brachas Nun Gimel Amud Beis, an incredible source of Ma'amer Chaynim, V'skadishtem v'yisem kedoshim. V'yisem kedoshim elu Ma'amer Chaynim. If someone wants kedusha, wash Ma'amer Chaynim. V'yisem kedoshim. But there's more to Ma'amer Chaynim. Besides the kedusha that it brings, it's also the sakana that it avoids. The Gemara says that in salt that we eat, there's melach stoimis, a very dangerous salt, and we have to wash our hands before we put it to our eyes. Al pi Kabbalah, there's certainly even more to this, but this is why the Mechaber begins Kuf Peyalav, short and sweet, Mayim Achraynim Chayva. What I was always nispal about, the Pischei Tshuva and Yeradei, Shin Mem Aleph Sif Katan Daled, quotes the Chamuri Daniel and the Michtam LeDavid that say a halacha that's almost surprising. Loyalenu an Einin, before the kvura of one of his kroivim, does not do any mitzvahs. He eats without making a bracha, he doesn't bench, but says the Chamuri Daniel and the Michtam LeDavid, this Einin that will not make hamoitz, he will not bench, but he should wash Ma'amer Chaynim. Now that sounds shocking. You don't bench, but Ma'amer Chaynim, the teretz is sakana, he's not potter from. He has to take care of himself. So the point is, those that wash Ma'amer Chaynim, Tavi Alei and Bracha, there are many reasons for that. And if that would be the case, why should a cotton be different? I saw the Aruch HaShulchan, the end of Kuf Peyalav says, Yesh L'chol Balabayis, Lahazir B'nei Beisai, Sheyizharu B'zeh. I guess he means everybody should wash. In the Zmiris of the Divrei Yoel, the Satmarov says he told the Mechanchem, the Rebbeim, in the Talmudei Torah, to make sure the children wash Ma'amer Chaynim. And l'char, that's mistaver. Why not? However, kayadua, there are some that don't wash Ma'amer Chaynim. This is based on a Taisis in Nun Gimel Amud Beis and Brachis, where Taisis says that first of all, today we don't have Melech Sedaimis, so there's no longer the Sakana. And additionally, we are careful when we eat. We don't eat with our hands. Our hands are always clean, so there's no concern of a lack of nikiyas. And therefore, Taisis says, for someone taka that his hands are not clean, he should wash. But if someone's hands are clean, and additionally there's no melech sedaimis, Taisis says there's no reason to wash Ma'amer Chaynim. And at the end of Kuf Pei Aleph, the Mechaber quotes this Taisis, he's sort of a mild endorsement. He says, Yesh she'ein izharem nehagim lita Ma'amer Chaynim. The Mishnah Berurah says, that's the Shita of Taisis, but the Gra is Machmir. The Magen Avram quotes Mikubalim that are Machmir, and Hichme Harbe Bezeh. So we'll say that the German Jewry that Makabel the Psak of Taisis do not wash Ma'amer Chaynim. I think a good part of Klal Yisrael are still very makbid, not only because of the halacha, but al pi Kabbalah and al sakana. Now the question is, what about ketanim? Should a child be instructed to wash Ma'amer Chaynim? So Pashut, why not? If his father does it, so why shouldn't the child have that chinuch? You need a chinuch. What's interesting is, you'll ask me, is there any different boys or girls regarding Ma'amer Chaynim? So this is another one of the things that I learned regarding Gedolim when you learn the Sugya for Ketanim. Pashtus, there's no reason to think that women are any less chayiv in Ma'amer Chaynim than men. Melech Sedaimis applies, Kedusha applies, and Rabbi Yankiv Emden, in the end of Kuf Peyal Hamor Katzia, he says maybe the women that are real super istanis, they're very clean, they don't have to wash, but Stami says if it's a regular situation, they should wash like men, Belishum Hefresh V'tzarech Loidion. Pashit, both reasons of Maimer Chayim for men apply to women. I saw somebody asked, the Salmas Chaim, they asked Rabbi Chaim Zonnenfeld and Simon Kuf Yates, the Shal was a Lamdin, and it says, both reasons of Maimer Chayim apply to women also. Should they wash? So he wrote back, Kfar Pashit la'atzmai v'nachan ein safek. You already said the answer. There's no difference. The Aruch HaShulchan, as I mentioned, says you have to tell your B'nai Beisa, he probably includes women. Rabbi Shlomo Zalman, Rabbi Yashiv all said women, like men, should wash Maimer Chayim. However, we could say, Poik Chazi Mayama Debar, many women don't wash Maimer Chayim. So they asked this to Rav Ozlan, Chelik Dalet Siman Chav Gimel, and he said, Pashtis, there's no chilik, but since we have a Toisis and a Sheet in Shulchan Aruch, that even men are chai a potter, but they do it as chumrah, so maybe women were not makabel the chumrah. So we could say whatever the women's minig is, we definitely understand why women should do it, but those that don't are probably in good company, because many women taka don't. Once you hear that even by women there's a tzad to be makel, you could understand that young girls, there's certainly a tzad to be makel, that the chi of chinuch is for men and for boys, like in that respect, but for girls there's more of a tzad to be makel. The next part of the procedure is the chi of Zimun. Our children, should they participate in the Zeeman? Should they answer? Are they mechuyev to answer? Any different boys or girls? So there's nothing to talk about in Yesod and Halacha. There is no difference, boys or girls, men or women, regarding Zeeman. In fact, the Shulchan Aruch and Kuf Tzadik Tes Sif Yud, the Mechaber says that if you have 9 adults and 1 child, you're allowed to count them into Zeeman. And that's the minig of Svardim Ad Hayoim Hazeh. You could count 1 cotton into the Zeeman of 3 or 10. Ad Hayoim, that's the minig of Svardim. The Ramah says the minig of Ashkenazim is not to count a cotton. Okay, so we can understand from this that Ketanim should answer the Zeeman. Like the Mechaber, that they're even part of the Zeeman Avada. But even for the Ashkenazim, we don't count them into Minyan, but he's Farta Yid. And that's why, l'chayr, it's pashit, children should participate by answering the Zeeman. Someone asked Rav Ozlan Chelik Yud Siman Reish Mem Dalet, a very long shayla. Maybe the Zeeman of 10 he shouldn't answer. Because since he's not part of the Zeeman, so his Zeeman is not a Zeeman, and therefore he's saying Hashem Shemayim Levatolah. Rav Ozlan says, I don't understand that. Chinuch is to practice, to do what's right. And even if he's not part of Zeeman regarding answering, but it's not a bracha Levatolah, he's not Shem Shemayim Levatolah. So I think it's pashit, all agree, a child should answer the Zeeman. It's just like there's a chiyuv on the adult. Some say the rice, some say the rabbanon. So there's no difference. A child, his chinuch is to answer Zeeman. The next question, is there any difference, boys or girls, regarding answering Zeeman? So pashtas, as we mentioned, Zeeman applies to men and women. The Vilna Gaon Shita, I haven't never seen it, but if you have 10 women, noshin mezamnin la'atzman, is a chiyuv. We don't combine men and women, but women are definitely chayiv and Zeeman. So we don't make Zeeman of women, but if you have men and women, the women should answer. Someone asked me, how come women don't answer the Zeeman? So I told them very respectfully, and in my house, the women answer the Zeeman. Maybe the word is, if you bench when they're still in the kitchen and they don't hear the Zeeman, and you don't call them, and you ignore them, so they can't answer if they don't hear it. But in my house, we call them, we wait for them. And I found that Moshe says this mamish this yesod. The chelik hey, siman tes, sif kat and yud. He says there's no difference reason why women should not be chayiv and Zeeman, and you have to wait for them. But you can't blame them for not answering if they weren't called and told that they should come in and answer the Zeeman. So the truth is, Zeeman is a chayiv on men and women. Once we say that, the chayra, then the same thing should be true regarding girls participating in Zeeman. Now the last group of questions is, I guess the more challenging one, is the chiyuv of benching. What age should a child bench? How much does he have to bench? And the question I always wanted to clarify, you learn the Paiskim, there's something called a Berchas Hamazon Mekutza. There's an abridged version of benching. Yet you look in the benches, the Siddurim of today, you cannot find it. What happened to it, if it's quoted in the Paiskim? So there's no doubt about it, if a mitzvah needs chinuch, then benching certainly needs chinuch. Benching is the only bracha that we have that l'chol hadeyis is a deraisa. even Berachas HaTorah, which we assume is deraisa, but some say he's not. Okay, we assume is deraisa. But benching undoubtedly is a bracha deraisa l'chol hadayis. More so, benching, the Shulchan Aruch paskins, we should treat it like Shmein Esrei. Okay, some people say, oh, like Shmein Esrei, no problem. Never. I mean, when you treat Shmein Esrei right, you treat benching right. That's the Mechaber meant. Benching is like Shmein Esrei. And therefore, if we're mechanach even on mitzvahs d'Rabbanan, like brachos and atil yadayim, certainly we're mechanach on benching. And that's why it's klar, it's actually a Mishnah, in brachos daf chav, noshim avodim ketanim, achayiv in tefillah, mezuzah, and birchas hamazim. And if you look at the Zayah in Parshas Balak, he speaks very highly, in great glowing terms about the benching of a child. And a child should know that his benching is very, very precious. And that's why you see Minig Yisrael is a strong emphasis on chinuch regarding benching. In the Chadarim and the yeshivas, at a young age, the children are benching. It's a long benching. It takes them 15 minutes. They sing. At home, many fathers very patiently sing with their children. It's a long process. But Lamaisa, we see benching. There's a tremendous devotion to chinuch habanim regarding benching. I rather saw one of the Rishonim, the Rivan, who says that children are not chayiv in benching. The Mishnah says that the chayiv on those three mitzvahs that's going on noshim and avodim. Because since a cotton eats sometimes without his father, who's going to be mechanech him in the benching? Which is similar to the sheet of Rashi in Brachas Daf Chav, that ketanim, even a giyul chinuch, Rashi holds, is pater from Krishma. Because he's not together with his father early morning or late at night, and who's going to mechanech him with Krishma? So the Rivan apparently holds that ketanim are pater from benching. But that's not the psak in the Shulchan Aruch at all. Kuf Peivav Beis, the Mechaber says clearly, there's a chiyuv chinuch on benching for a child. The taina, the father's not there. Teretz is the father makes a good chinuch. When he is there, it lasts. There's a tremendous chiddush, the Ritva, and the Chuvas Ritva, Siman Tzadik Zayin. It's like sort of out of nowhere, the Ritva says that even though chinuch is generally a mitzvah on the father, the child himself is not mechuyev in chinuch, the father is mechuyev in chinuch. But when it comes to benching, the mitzvah of chinuch is on the child. The child's mechuyev midrabanan to bench. Why? Ma'anishtana, benching more mitzvahs. He says, since we find such a chumrah regarding benching, that really midaraisa you only bench on kedei sviyah. But we were machmer and even a kazayis. So hifrizu midoiseyem, there's a special chi of benching even on the child himself. So I was thinking, like the Ritva, the Rivan's taina is no longer a taina. He doesn't need the father. There's a chiyuv on the child himself to make sure he benches. But be that as it may, it's a very good idea. To mention that the parents or grandparents should make a strong emphasis the child should bench, and you need a little patience. The child starts singing, and you want to go someplace, and it's long, but it's worthwhile. You make him a person that knows how to bench on his own, and then you could trust him to bench on his own. Are there any differences, boys or girls, regarding benching? So we come to another big yesod negeya for us gedolim as well. The Gemara in Brachos has a shaila, Daf Chafam at Beis, are nashim chayiv in benching deraisa or derabanan? In other words, women are definitely chayiv in benching, but is it the same chayiv like a man or not? So Rashi says, what's the shaila? Why should women be different? It's not as man gram, it's not like lulav. So Rashi says, since the pasuk says, "V'achalta v'savata ala oretz ha'toiva," you should eat on the land that I gave you, and women don't have a chelik in Eretz Yisrael. So maybe it's not a chiyuv deraisa on women. Avada d'Rabbanan, there is a chiyuv, but not a deraisa. Toisvis and the Magen Avraham quotes the Zoya that says a different suffix. Since an integral part of benching is bris and Torah, and women don't have either of them, so women don't have benching either ice. But Lamaisa, the Gemara has a suffix, are women chayiv in benching like men? The Gemara, Lamai nafkamina. What's the difference? They have to bench. The rice or the rabban, what's the nafkamina? So the Gemara, Lafuki b'nei rabba midei chayvase. If they could pater a man. For example, a man ate a suda. He's not sure if he benched, or he's not sure he said ritzei. His wife not yet benched. Can a woman be mitzi a man in benching? That's the shayla. If women are chayiv deraisa, she can be moitzi her husband or a man. If women are only derabanan, so a derabanan can't pata deraisa. Now you look at the Gemara, there's no hachra. The Gemara has a shayla, and then the Gemara goes weiter. Zok the Rosh and Brachis and the Rambam Hey Aleph. This is a boya do yifshita. This is one of the rare times you find the Gemara has a shayla and leaves it as a suffix. So now how do we paskin? Are women chayiv and benching deraisa? So the Mechaber in Kuf Peivav Aleph says that it's a suffix, and therefore they should not be moitzi a man in benching. In other words, as Mr. Burr explains, we do treat women that are chayiv in benching, but it might not be a deraisa. So therefore, a man that ate just a kazayis, and his wife ate kedei svia, she could be moitzi the husband when he needs to be. Why? Because now they're both the rabbanans. But on a regular basis, we treat an isha that she's chayav deraisa, but l'chumra she should not be moitzi a man. Now the big question, which is so much more negeya than a wife being moitzi a husband, is let's say an isha has a suffix if she benched. She certainly ate kedei svia, she forgot if she benched. Or she's not sure if she said ritzei on Shabbos, and ritzei on Shabbos is ma'akev the benching. So the question is, does she have to repeat the benching? If Noshim Achayiv and benching deraisa, it's a sveika deraisa, like for us men. If it's only derabanan, it's sveika derabanan. So the tshuva Shar Ephraim, that was the Zayda of the Chacham Tzvi in Siman Yud Aleph, and he shared, in other places can have the same sheet, the Chayod, the Magen Giborim. They basically say that we treat women as if it be a deraisa. And Baraya, the Gemara says, Lamay nafkamina, to be moitzi a man. Why did the Gemara say, Lamay nafkamina, suffix? The Teretz says, no. Benching the chayiv. Suffix the chayiv. The Mishnah Berurah then quotes Rabbi Kiva Eiga and the Berkei Yosef that a woman's suffix is a suffix to Rabbanan, and she should not to repeat the benching. But if you look in the Bi'alacha, he seems very much inclined to go with the Shar Ephraim. He says if someone wants to go out to Shar Ephraim and a woman should repeat the benching, loy hifsid, because das rishonim that she's chayav deraisa. And I just saw Rabbi Shlomo Zalman in the Tshuvas in the back of a saying Brach Amud Yud Gimel. He says it's kedai to paskin that a woman has a suffix benching. If she ate, of course, ate kedei svia, should repeat the benching. So benching should not be cheap in her eyes. Let her treat benching like the men treat benching. So when Isha has a suffix, if she said ritzei, she should repeat the benching al tzveika deraisa l'chumr. Oy bazoi, the question is, when you have a question of chinuch for girls, is there any difference, boys or girls? The answer is no. Because we treat women as if they would be almost like a deraisa l'chol hadayis, even though there's a suffix, but l'chumr we treat women like men regarding benching, so too we treat ketanim, boys and girls the same. What's noteworthy, the Levush in Kuf Pei Vav, the end of Kuf Pei Vav, says a katan that ate kedei svia is chayiv and benching, midrabanan. So zok the oilas tamid and the oyirabba, it's masher from the Levush that a child that ate just the kazayas or kabeya doesn't have to bench. Why not? So it seems that the Levush holds on a mitzvah derabanan of benching on a kazayas. There's no chiyav chinuch. However, the El Yerabba takes exception, as the Oilas Tamid does. The Pima Godim shows that the Levush himself says there's chinuch by the Rabbanan. Now let's not forget, we're mechanech our children in Chanukah and Purim, which is the Rabbanan. So the Mishnah Berurah says, Beferish, Sifkot and Dalid, Cotton is chayiv in benching, even if he only ate a kazayas. What's a challenging question, which happens unfortunately quite often, a child washed, he ate a bite or two, but no more. He ate less than a kazayas. Does he bench? Should you tell him to bench? Or should you tell him not to bench? He ate less than a kazayas. No one holds a chiyah benching less than a kazayas. So the truth is, someone says, I should tell my son to walk away from the table without benching? How could I do that? But then again, to tell him to bench when he's not supposed to bench is also wrong chinuch. L'chayra chinuch is all about giving him a proper chinuch. So if you are certain he ate less than a kazayas, you'll tell him, listen, mein kind, If I would be you, I would eat a kazayas, so you could be zayich to the mitzvah of benching. Benching brings bracha. The benching brings a bracha and panasa, the chinuch says, and you could tell him about benching, the importance of benching. But if he's not eating more than just that, how could he be instructed to bench if he's not mechuyev to bench? How could he walk away without benching? But you can't tell him to bench when he's not mechuyev to bench. You could tell him, if you don't want to eat, okay, I understand. But remember, when you become a gadol, you have to bench, but only in a kazayas. That's why you're not benching. But you tell him, you know what, you have to bench no matter what. It's very possible. 80 years from now, he'll say, I remember vividly, I was 7 years old, I took one bite of bread, my father says, you must bench. That must be a shita. Everything he's supposed to remember, he forgets. The one thing that he's supposed to forget, he remembers. But as Ayidus, that's human nature. Lamaisa, this is why it's clear that if a child ate less than a kazayas, he doesn't bench. Now, I saw that from Rabbi Zev, that's not a good chinuch. Now, what I did see, that if there's a suffix name he should bench, for example, he ate a suda, but not a kazayas of pas. He had pas and other foods. So then you could be mishitas that say if you have a kadei svi, you could bench on the svi. Or he ate, Lamashal, I saw this, Rav Vosner was quoted as saying, a child ate a kazayas, but not b'kedei chilas pras. He spaced it out. So maybe we could say that for the child, he eats slowly. So you'll add a bench to the child's different. Whenever you have a shita to be saimachan, I saw they, even based on a chsam seifa, if a child ate less than a kazayas and he's full from it, which is very rare. I mean, a quarter of a piece of, less than a quarter slice of bread, he's full. But the chsam seifa holds, if you have a kadei sviya, even if it's less than a kazayas, you're mechuyev to bench. So then you could say for a child, he could svalazach on that. But if it's clearly not a kazayas, not kadei sviya, give him a proper chinuch. Now someone asked, but I don't understand. When you take a young child, you let it, theoretically, we don't do that, you let it sit down with him and practice benching, even though he didn't eat at all. Let's learn how to bench. You're allowed to do that. It's a very shemachaba. So how could this case be worse? Teretz is the kash is a toyis. If the child doesn't know how to bench, you're training him how to bench, so that every word of that practice is justifiable. You're teaching him how to bench. But this child knows how to bench. You're not training him how to bench. You want to train him to make mitzvah when he's not mechuyev in the mitzvah? That's a improper chinuch. There's another halacha I should mention briefly. The halacha says this in Kuf Samaches Sif Vov, that a child's kedei svia is less than an adult's kedei svia. In other words, when we eat a piece of cake or two, we don't have to wash because it's not kedei svia. Those that don't wash, unless they have 2 slices of pizza, for example, so 2 slices kedei svia for an adult. But says the halacha, a cotton's kedei svia is less than a gadol's kedei svia. So when you're talking about what's considered a kviyas suda for a cotton, you have to modify the amounts, because a cotton's kedei svia is less than a gadol's kedei svia. But the point is, the best chinuch is what's done right. Let him wash and eat a kabeya, make it til yadayim. Let him wash mayim rechoinim. Let him answer to Zeeman, and let him bench b'simcha if he had a kazayis or more. As far as the actual benching is concerned, what is the share of chinuch? Is it an option just the first bracha if he's young? And what happened to this nusach hamakutza? So one thing I will say, the share of chinuch for benching is probably later than other mitzvahs. Because you have 3 long brachas, and we bench actually 4 brachas. It's not just a shakal nibadvar that it can rattle off. You need patience. The Chayei Adam, in the beginning of Klal Samach Vav, says a chiddush, that cotton hayedeya ledaber, knows how to talk, is chayiv in benching. But the poskim are surprised, how could that be? To sit down and bench, even the first 3 brachas is in avodah. So, lamaisa, if he's not bichlal benching properly, like we said, like the Brisker Rose, yedeya l'ananeya, he's not chayiv in benching. You could say the words, saying the words is not yet benching. But what's interesting is, there seems to be a source in the Gemara that justifies the nusach hamakutza. But listen to this. In Kuf Pei Zayin Aleph, the Mechaber, based on a Gemara in Brachis, Daf Mem, if talking about an adult, mind you, if an adult said, Brich Rachman and Malka Mori Dahai Pita, he's Yoitza for the first bracha of benching. That is what we call in English an abridged version of benching. Brich Rachmana, Mori Dahai Pita, he's Yaitza. Yes, he's Yaitza. That's what the Gemara says. And the Shulchan Aruch quotes this regarding an adult. Zok the Rav, in Kuf Peizayin Dalid, B'shas Hatchak, a person cannot bench the whole benching. He could rely on this abridged version. Then, on this, says the Mishnah Berurah, in Sif Cotton Dalid, Yolodim Ketanim, you can be mechanech them lechatchila with this nusach. What are you coming along with new innovations for benching? Teretz is not for a cotton. This is even for a gadol. If it's good for a gadol, it's good for a cotton. And that's what the Mishnah Berurah says. If you want, you could use this idea for a child as long as he's less than 8 years old. So here we have a mechaba regarding gedolim based on a Gemara that the nusach hamakutza does work. Now, again, it's not a wrong chinuch necessarily, because even a gadol could do it. It's just not a regular chinuch. But what's more to this, the Bach in the end of Kuf Tzadik Beis, he says it was just recently printed in Venezia, in Venice. Rav Naftali Baskamas Harbe Gedoyle Chachamim of Italy, a new version of the Nusach HaMakutza of benching. And if you look there, it's tremendous. It was crafted with tremendous chachma. The first bracha, the child says the regular first bracha. Then, and again, it's long, I can't tell it to you now, but it's a tremendous chachma, a synopsis of every part of benching. It even ends off with a tefillah for Yishalayim. It ends off with bringing Mashiach. So it has every bracha until the end of benching that we say. Very brief. That's the end of it. Tremendous chachma. This is what's referred to as the Birchas Hamazon Mekutza. It's more than the Gemara's Brich Rachmana, because that's only the first bracha. This has the first bracha in its entirety, and it has a synopsis, a very brief, abridged version of the rest of benching. And Rabbi Yashiv, I saw quoted in the V'zayis HaBracha, page 186, he says, why not do that? If a child finds it hard to bench, until 8 years old, let him do it. But Lamaisa, Poi Kazi my Amadabar. I looked around in all of the Siddurim, I looked around in all the benches that I could get my hands on, Kamat. None of them have this Nusach HaMakutza. Now, the better benches have more to it. They have, if you forgot to say, the special Yiratzim. But no one has this Nusach HaMakutza. So I saw in the Alicha Shleim, Reb Shleim Zalman, in Tefillah Aleph Ches, he first says that was the minig in many places, and you see this in old Siddurim, which I guess I don't have, but in the old Siddurim you see it. But today it's not done, because it's not a good idea to train a child to do what he's not going to do when he gets older. Now that, of course, he does not mean that you can't do it because it's wrong. Because if the Bach and the Magen Avram says to do it, it's not wrong. But it might be confusing. He's benching this, his father's benching that, he gets older this. So, in other words, chinuch, you have to keep it basically a practice for his adulthood. To do something exclusive for children might be misleading. Now, what's noteworthy, Rav Shlomo Zalman says, so let's say he's not ready for benching. Let him just bench the first bracha, and that's it. In other words, it's better to do the first bracha only than the Nusach HaMakutza that is sanctioned by the Bach. Now, if you look in the Yosef Oim, it's page 283, he says you should train your children in benching piecemeal, part at a time. One bracha, second bracha. So, although we would find this questionable, how can you tell a child to bench the first bracha? It's only the first, not first bracha, it's 3 brachas. But apparently the first bracha is better than this Nusach HaMakutza. Now, Lamais, if someone does the Nusach HaMakutza, Tavei Lav bracha, I can't say it's wrong, obviously. But we do see that the minig, at least today in our times, it's not done. What's interesting is that the question for the age of chinuch, we would say, what do you mean? What's the shayla? We just saw 5 or 6 or 7. But if you notice, I mentioned the Rav, and Mishnah Berurah quotes it, until 8, he could say a short version. So apparently for benching, the shir of chinuch is 8 years old. And I can understand it. Because you need more than just a shakel niba dvari for benching. Maybe the age is 8 years old. Okay, some say that it's even earlier, and today, the truth is, today in the pre-1A, they're already benching, and I spoke to some Rebbeim that benching the whole benching. It's very tedious, but the Rebbeim do it. So maybe you could say today is earlier. But again, if a child that refuses to bench, he's immature, don't make a fuss at a younger age, leave it. With very yitachin, the shir of chinuch is until the age of 8. What's interesting, I've heard this more than once, is it an option to tell a child, maybe he's still young, a 5-year-old, a 6-year-old, you don't want to bench? Just say bar nefashos. Now, at first glance, that has some merit to it. Because we know shahakol is a bracha kolelas. It includes everything, b'diavad. Bar nefashos seems to mirror shakol. So maybe if he won't bench, bar nefashos is an option. But there are 2 problems to that. First of all, many poskim say that a shakel does not cover bread. If Chazal made a special hamaitzi, you can't say a shakel and be yaitze. Also, benching needs 3 brachas. How does bar nefashos cover for 3 brachas? And most importantly, it's a wrong chinuch. You tell a child to make a bar nefashos instead of benching. All you need is to do that when he becomes an gadol. But Re'ezeh Pella, the Kajiglav in Eretz Tzvi Simon Chavtes, he says he wrote a sefer to V'enche Minig Yisrael. He says, I saw this minig that parents tell a child to say bar nefashos. So he writes, Yesh mokoim lahaminig, but he says a go'ina shavod, kedarkoim. The Magen Avraham in the beginning of Reish Yud writes that if a person had, let's say, a small amount of grapes and a small piece of apple, which is not a kazayis either one, but together it's a kazayis, you can make a bar nefashos. Zok the machsa shekel, really bar nefashos covers grapes. But Chazal said a special bracha of a me'ein shalosh. So therefore, in this case, you're not going to make a me'ein shalosh anyhow. So Zaya mensch, do something. In other words, bar nefashos on grapes is not an incorrect bracha of atala. It's just insufficient. So if it's better than nothing, then it's probably better than nothing. So you could make a bar nefashos on a half a kazayis of grapes and a kazayis of apples. So Zok the Kajiglav Oy Bazoi, he says a chiddush nifla. Let's say someone is stuck out of town and there's no bencher, no siddur. He doesn't know how to bench. Either he's going to do nothing, or he'll say bar nefashos because he knows bar nefashos by heart. Zok the Kajiglav, he's not yaitze benching, but it's not an improper bar nefashos. It's a shevach. Now what do you gain? You did something. So it's like in between. It's not yaitze benching, but it's not like you're saying or you're saying it's a bracha that has meaning. And the Pella is Rav Moshe and Chelik Aleph Ayin Daled says the exact same approach. If someone doesn't have a siddur, he can make it bar nefashos because it's not wrong. Now I did see the Shmir Shabbos in Nun Daled Kuf Zayin says, so according to Rav Moshe, if you end up getting a siddur later on, it's still within shir equal, you have to bench. Because it's a funny scenario. You're not yaitze with the bar nefashos, but it's something. In other words, this is one of the rare times that it's better than nothing. Usually, it's nothing, not better than nothing. Better late than never, no, better nothing. But this is better than nothing. So, Lamaisa, we could understand the minig, but the problem is, why you train your child to do something wrong? It would be probably better to help him to say the first bracha, or at least the brich rachmana. But again, I don't think it's done on a regular basis. Someone asked me what he thought was a lamda shashayla. The child cannot bench the entire benching. Is it better to say the first bracha, or to say a me'en shalosh and ala michya? Because me'en shalosh is a synopsis of all 3. I told him, me'en shalosh is not shalosh. Imagine your boss pays you $1 after working for a month. He says, Rubai kakulai, or mikzas kakulai, me'en. Not Rubai, it's mikzas. Me'en shalosh is not shalosh. It's like me'en a salary is not a salary. In fact, many poskim hold you're not yaitze benching with a me'en shalosh, because me'en is not the real thing. But we don't have to be smarter than Chazal. If the child can't bench the entire benching, let him say the first bracha. But me'en shalosh sounds appealing, but it's takanat. A child ate a kedei svi, a full meal, but ran out to play ball, came back 3 hours later. Can I still bench? What do you do? If after share equal, he can't bench. But someone said, how could you say such thing? He came back, he wants to bench, he can't bench, he's not going to bench. But again, you can't be mechanat the child wrongly. So Someone said, what you should do is give the child tzvei petch. No. I have a better idea. Tell the child, you know what you should do? Wash and eat more bread and bench. You'll be zoicha to the mitzvah of benching. Now the truth is that benching that he says is not going to help on the first Suda, because it's already over. But at least he'll have a chinuch the importance of benching. I said this in yeshiva, someone said, you know something, the two petch are easier than washing and benching. Maybe. But Lamaisa, the chinuch is a very genuine chinuch. Let him wash and bench. He won't help to the first Suda, but he'll get this bizoicha to the mitzvah of benching. Another ha'ara that I wanted to mention is a question that I had this shaila once, and I'm still not clear about it, but I want to thank someone that asked me this ha'ara. The question is, a child was bar mitzvah on Matzoi Shabbos, going into Sunday. So the family came together for the Suda, for the Suda Matzoi Shabbos. They happened to have a big crowd for the Shabbos, for the Shal Shuddis, so they're going to daven Ma'ariv there. And he looked at the clock, it was already after the Zman, after Bein Tam Zman. Someone says, oh, Yossi, whatever, Yossi, Mazel Tov, you're bar mitzvah, because it's already Vadei Laila. Then the question was, can he be the Mezamein for the Tzibur? He ate Al's cotton, he's benching Al's Godel. Can he be a Mezamein for the Tzibur? So the truth is what comes to mind, we spoke about this in the past, the famous Rabbi Kivegas Chakira, is the Chiyah benching on the Achila, the Mais Achila, or the Sviyah? If it's on the Achila, he ate Al's cotton. If it's on the Sviyah, he's still full. So, if you go with the Yisai that it's on the Sviyah, maybe he could bench. But the problem, I saw this in Sefer Ketzad Mezamen on Mekuf Tzadik Beis, and he has a strong point, maybe this is worse. Because Zeeman is totally in Tzirif Achila with the other people. When did he eat this food? Al's cotton. So there was no tzirif. So he asked Rav Vosna, and Rav Vosna responded in the Shevet Alevi, Chelik Ches Nun Vav, and Rav Vosna said, he said that really Zeeman today is only the Rabbanan. And today's Zeeman is a watered version of the real Zeeman. In the old time Zeeman, he benched and it was Moitzi the Oilam. Today it's just the Rabbi Yisrael benching. Let the boy say the Zeeman. But Lamaisa, the Taina is a strong Taina. There was no tzirif. Another ha'or I wanted to mention, for those that bench with their child, remember you also have to be yaitz your own benching. Benching is a deraisa mitzvah svichas kavana. So basically you're benching with the child, of course have a mind to yaitz yourself. Another benching child ha'ora, I've seen this more than once, an adult benches with a kais, but he doesn't want to drink the wine or the grape juice. His young child will be willing to drink for him. So the question is, could the adult make the bracha agafen and give it to the child to drink? So it sounds funny. You're making a bracha for a child, and where's your drinking? But says the Rav in Kuf Tzadik Siv Dalit that this is fine. Because really that's not an integral part of the benching, the shtiyas kais. The reason why we drink the wine, there shouldn't be a genai for the kais, that no one drinks the kais. So the Rav says it's perfectly okay that the Mezamen makes the bracha and gives it to the child to drink, and is yaitza with that is not a genai on the kais. And the emphasis, this is not such an outlandish chiddush. We do this by a bris that we have on Yom Kippur or Tisha B'Av. When we don't drink, we give it to a child. And in those shuls, very rare that they make kiddush in shul Friday night, and the one that makes kiddush cannot drink, he gives it to a child. And Achrei Chavev, I will leave you with a suffix, because I could tell you both studim, but it still bothers me very much. I don't have a clarkite, but Tein L'chacham V'yech Gemoid. A child ate a full Suda, Kedei Sviyah, and is not sure if he benched, or he's not sure if he said Ritzei on Shabbos when it's Ma'akiv. And he asked you, what should I do? He ate a full meal as a suffix if he has to bench a second time. So how would you look at that? So Pashtus will say, what do you mean? He ate Kedei Sviyah, Sveika Deraisa L'chumra. Just like for us, he has to bench over. If you have a suffix, if you bench, you have to bench over. But wait a second. He's only a cotton. The full extent of his chiyuv is only midrabanan. So why don't we look at him as a suffix drabanan? But then again, what is chinuch? Isn't chinuch practicing when he'll be a gadol? If he'll have this very scenario when he's a gadol, he'll have to bench over. So the question is, how do you look at it? So what comes to mind, I once discussed with Rav Pam Zechayin Levrach, we had it this past year. This past year, Tisha B'Av fell out on Sunday. So we Gedolim did not make Havdalah until Sunday night. A chayil that had to eat on Matzoi Shabbos made Havdalah Matzoi Shabbos. The question is, what are the thousands of Yiddish kinder that don't fast? Do they make Havdalah Matzoi Shabbos? Because they're eating. So I think the general consensus of Paiskim is he does not make Havdalah. Because why should he make Havdalah? Al Chinuch. But there's no Chinuch in Havdalah and Matzoi Shabbos. A chayil makes Havdalah because a chayil is chayiv in Havdalah. He has a chiv atzmi. But if it's only a chiv of Chinuch, there's no Chinuch Havdalah Matzoi Shabbos. So the question is, in this case, why do we look at benching? Mitzarecha will say, he's Safek Deraisa, because when I'll be a godly, he has to bench again. But then again, right now, he's a cotton. So the Shraga Hamer and Dal Memches says he compares this to an Isha that has a suffix if she benched. So we said earlier, even if you hold it to Boyd Lo Yifshita, but we treat her like a Safek Deraisa. So he says a cotton that has a suffix should re-bench just because als Godel, that's what he will do. A guten Tag to you all.
I'd like to thank Rabbi Smith for the wonderful share. Rabbi said 1 minute. There's a man at Yisrael that is on a dialysis for months already. And Nebuch has a whole family of 13 kids and they want to save his life. Pikuach nefesh mamish. His brother came to America. He's ready to offer he'll give away his kidney to save his brother's life. All the G'dolei Yisrael came and asked, please save this mishpacha. They shouldn't be Yisayimim. 13 kids, they shouldn't be Yisayimim. We have opportunity. They need a few $100,000 to save the family for operations. And they came with emergency appeal. Albus Medish made an appeal. We're asking everybody, this is Pekuach Nefesh Mamish. Either you give a check to the congregation based on $100 or up, or let's give you a credit card to save a nefesh and a whole family. You shouldn't have to chas v'shalom have charata later. Right now we can save his family with a few $100,000. The appeal, all the G'dolei Yisrael asked to save him these few days. They're making a big mesiba. We're asking everybody, this Pikuach Nefesh, or call Ign Torah, you give a credit card over the phone at 718-851-8651. In this chus, a brother is cutting himself his own kidney. We ask everybody, cut a little into your pocket to help out the Ratva, Yiddish and Neshama, and the Reitzin Kinder. In this chus, wissen für Katzores, and everybody should be gesund and stark, and nachas from the Kinder, and mechanach the Kinder, easy. You can come to the beam and give you a credit card. Tiskra mitzvahs. Yasha koyach. Reb Chaim HaKash HaMerotz HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Zako is Yisrael. לפי גהיבר עם תוירה מצווה, שנאמר על הרחובס מהצדקו, יגדיל תוירה וידי. קדיש. אמן. 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 יהי שמירה. Shkoya for helping out. Rabbi said, Pikuach Nefesh Mamish. It's a young man, a Hamish young man that we all know. Magichin as Yisrael, we're trying to save his life. Please help out. Tiskar mitzvahs. Rabbi, give the credit card, please. Bring your cards over. Right here's a credit card machine, please.
How are you doing?
He had the flu, but he's Baruch Hashem getting better.
Welcome back, but you know the whole deal. When you don't come, we appreciate it as much. He says, who's going to have such an adventure now?
Rabbi say, the Sikkim, please, Rabbi say, sit down and please give your credit cards to help out the Mishpacha B'Kuch Nefesh.
Kenny? I don't know. Come, I said. Sit down, get out of the hand. Okay.
Everybody's saying the children are getting impatient. Everybody's just will say the Sikkim on Dine Cotton. Samozin till Sedayim and Zeeman. Shh, just take a few minutes.
Just to review what we learned here, Bez Hashem, the Tilas Yadayim, we learned a few halachas for, I think, more for adults than for children, but anyhow, Tilas Yadayim is even on a kosher. We paskin, according to those shitas, lachatchila, we should treat even a drop of bread you have to wash. The brach is only said on a kabeya or more. According to the Gra, you could say a brach on a kazayas or more, but it's sort of a mikatz al katz. So we wash on a kosher, but the Shulchan Aruch psak is you make a bracha only on a kabeya, not even a kazayas. Suda Shabbos does need a kabeya, so someone that wants to know, he would like just the minimum amount for the Suda, let him have the equivalent of a half a slice of rye bread and challah, what corresponds to that, and then you can wash and bench and you to the Suda. To give to a very young child less than a kazayas when he needs it without washing is what to be saimachan. It's not safinan, as we said. The fact is that some make less than a kazayas. The child is the same. The chiyuv of Tilas Yadayim is 6 or 7. Some say it's a little later because they are lishmar es yadav. When it comes to mayim achreinim, many people are makbid, men and women, boys and girls. We did see some akilim that don't wash at all. That's based on the sheet of Taisvis. Some that men wash and women don't wash. So for those that women don't wash, certainly girls don't have to wash. But boys and men, that should be a chiyuv for those that have that chiyuv regarding regular mayim achreinim. Zeeman, women are chayiv and Zeeman. They should be waited for until they come. They should be called from the kitchen. But since there's a chiyuv on men and women, boys and girls also have the identical chiyuv. Benching is the bracha that's the raisa l'chol hadayis. We should treat it like Shemon Esrei. It needs a chinuch, it needs patience, but it's kedai to invest to make the child bench properly. In fact, some even say the chiyuv of chinuch is on the child, not on the father. But be that as it may, there's a chiyuv chinuch on benching, that's a mishnah. Even on a kazayis, there's a chiyuv that a child should bench. In other words, even though it's a derabanan, but there's a chiyuv chinuch on a derabanan. Women have a suffix if they're mechuyev midaraisa, but we did see if women have a suffix, if they bench, they should bench over. And a child that has a suffix, if he benched or not, is enough svaras to say that he should bench over also suffix, because when he'll be a gadol in this scenario, he will have to bench over. Is there any tzad, if there's any tzad that the child ate less than a kazayas, if you know that with certainty, he should not bench. If you have any tzad that he's mechuyev to bench, let's say he had other foods and he's surveyed with that, or he ate a little bit and he's full, then you can allow him to bench. But if it's definitely wrong to bench, a child should not be instructed to bench. If there are two versions of the Nusach HaMekutza, we have the original Nusach based on a Gemara, and then you have the Bach's a little longer Nusach, but if for some reason it's not done today, we prefer the child should try to bench the whole benching, or at least the first bracha, but we don't do things that he won't do as a gadol. It seems the share of chinuch is 8 years old, some make it in earlier, but basically the child should have some benching after eating. It's not a good idea to give the child just say bar nefashos, or even me'en shalosh. Chinuch is do it right. It's better the first bracha than a me'en shalosh. If the child delayed benching till after share equal, it would be advisable to wash and eat again and bench. It won't help for the first suda, but it's a good chinuch in the importance of benching. If you bench with the child together, make sure you have kavanah to be yoitza. To give a child Zeeman on the night of his bar mitzvah, if he ate als katan, is questionable. Now, more often than not, the child ate on his bar mitzvah night, which is typical by the suda, then he can zicha bench the mezamen. But if he ate als katan and he's benching at night, it's a suffix if he can't, if he could be the mezamen. And as we said, a suffix berchas hamazon, a child that ate kedei svia should re-bench another time. Yeah.
Whoever didn't give yet, thank you to everybody that gave. Tremendous mitzvah you did to help Pekuach Nefesh save a whole family, not just a father. Please, he's standing in the back. Please, chapan, it's such a mitzvah you don't catch every day. And whoever gave can give again. If you gave, give again, please.